Hello, hobby friends, and welcome to today's episode of Hobby Talk. My name is David Baez, and in today's episode, we are going to talk about one of my absolute favorite hobbies, unopened sports cards. With that being said, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome today one of the unopened collectors that really paved the way for me to understand the hobby with everything from market trends, detecting fakes, all that stuff. He's really helped me out a lot. And I'm really happy that he agreed to kind of be that one of the first episodes for me. So please join me in welcoming Mike Cirincione to Hobby Talk. Mike, what's up, buddy?
Hey, it's great to be here. I'm very honored to be one of your first guests on the show. So, and unopened, hey, can't get any better than that, right?
Yeah, man, we could talk for, and we have actually talked for like hours on this stuff in some of those Facebook group, the live shows and all that stuff. But and especially during COVID era, we had some fun, right?
Yes. So there's not a lot of other things to talk about, especially with sports being shut down for so long.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
You're absolutely right. I was just thinking about like, with everything bad comes something good, right? And I was thinking to myself, like, how cool was it for me to like get in there and open up some of these boxes and unearth some of my old stuff that I even forgot I had, like some cool cellos from 82, 83 that I'm getting wrapped right now with Steve. I forgot I had them.
yeah, yes, no, and I straightened up this. I'm in my vault that I call it, and I straightened up in here during the first couple of weeks of the whole COVID and everything shutting down.
Yeah, Mike, I think I speak for a lot of us unopened nerds that I get distracted every time I look at your background, man. Like that. I hope one day I have something that cool and I could set something up. That's just amazing, man.
Well, just so people know, this took probably about 30 years worth of
Yeah.
collecting to get. It wasn't just I just went out when COVID hit and
Yeah.
bought all this stuff.
Yeah. Although you have to admit that I would say we all bought a little bit more during COVID that we normally buy, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more discretionary income out there for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good segue. To the first question I had for you, buddy, and I kind of have an idea through the years of talking with you, but I'd love it if you can kind of start and tell me a little bit about like how you began in the hobby. What really got you into just cards in general.
Yep. No, I mean, it starts like everybody else. I was collecting as a, 8-year-old, 9-year-old. I started with 1975 tops was the first packs that I remember opening. And in 76, I really got into baseball, was collecting that, collecting football, and just following the sports and, collecting. I grew up on Long Island, so I was collecting the Jets and the Rangers and the Knicks, everything, all the stars of the time. So, I was, unfortunately for the Jets, it was Richard Todd back then.
I was about to ask you who was the
I
big
would be
name.
shocked if any viewer, other than a long-suffering Jet fan, would know who Richard Todd was. But
Yeah, you lost me there. I remember the Gastineau era. That's more but that's awesome. Like I mean, yeah, it's funny. There's always a deeply rooted connection, right, to the hobby and one that kind of what got us there. But so you were buying in 75, 76, kind of segueing into all sounds like you did, hockey, football. You kind of went to different sports.
yeah,
Now, tell us about like that transition to unopened. What kind of got you saying, I'm not opening these anymore. I'm keeping these the way they are.
yes. Well, obviously, as an 8-year-old, that didn't come to me as an 8-year-old. So that was much more further along in my collecting experience. So, I, as most kids would be, I was a set collector. Building sets. I think all the kids, I was always trying to build the whole set and collect the whole set. So, 70, 75, 76, 77, I'm trying to build the whole baseball set, the whole football set, trading with my friends and all, where others might, focus on just the team. Somebody might just only want Yankees or Mets, but I was always a set collector. So I did that religiously each year. But then I graduated high school in 85, so that'll give away my age a little bit there. But in 86, I was
Right.
collecting top set. So I was a freshman in college, So I had a little bit of cash, so I was able to buy a lot of the 86. So right when it came out, 86 Topps baseball, collecting it with those black borders, trying to put the set together. I bought 3 wax boxes because I'm like, all right, I'm just going to rip these. So what ended up happening is once I got to about 2.5 boxes worth, I finished a set. So I saw the half a box or so left, and I said, you know what? I think it'd be like really cool if I kept these packs with the set. I think that'd be really cool, and that's how it started. So then I just put the rest of
Wow.
the box aside, and that was it. And I didn't really give much thought to it. But then the next year, I did the same thing. I bought a lot more unopened that I did not open. So unfortunately, 87 and beyond probably wasn't the best value wise to spend my money and sitting on for a while. But
Right.
that's just happened to be the time frame that I started doing that. So I've got, 87, 88, 89, 90 boxes that I bought back in those years that I still have in my unopened collection
That
because
might be worth the same as they are now, right?
yes, finally I got to the break even point on those.
Too funny. It's interesting to hear that. I mean, first off, the fact that you can actually keep packs unopened back then is amazing because that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but I mean, to me, that was just not something that people were doing back then,
No,
you know?
not back then. No, you're right.
So people must have kind of like your friends and all that were into the hobby as well must have been like, Mike, what are you crazy? Open that up, rip it up,
Yeah,
get that Kevin Elster card, right?
yes. I was the weirdo in the corner of the hobby there that was keeping all
That's
the
funny. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. And to demonstrate that level of, just even now, right? I mean, one of the things that we all hear in Unopen is like, I don't know how you guys can keep those packs, in the groups that we're in and stuff,
yeah.
but even back then it's like amplified because it just wasn't common practice.
It was not common practice. But as you know, and I've kind of shared this before, as a set collector, so I'm collecting the sets, and I have my unopened collection follows my sets that I do collect. That once I have the set, why do I need to open more packs? I
That,
have all the cards. If I want to look at the cards or enjoy the cards, all these albums behind me have my sets in them. I just flip the pages. I like to keep my sets raw.
yeah.
I just a few of the bigger money cards will I submit and get graded. But for the most part, I like to enjoy the cards in the album,
Yeah.
be able to
Yeah,
flip.
that's an interesting perspective, and I certainly does help if you get that itch. You can kind of open up the binder and
Yeah,
see some of those favorite cards, right? So
correct.
very cool. So I think you kind of touched on it before, Mike, but just to kind of make it official, your favorite year to collect. What was your real like? Was it 75s or?
75, yes.
Yeah,
And I think that goes with everybody that collects. It's usually that first year you collected,
yeah,
bring back all those memories of ripping the packs. I remember getting, 75 rack packs and ripping them open and sorting all the cards by teams and, and
right.
all out on my bedroom floor. So that's definitely the year that's near and dear to me is 75.
You know what's cool about 75s? As I got into it, obviously much later, but 75 was just such a cool year because it really kind of, I'm not gonna say it introduced tops into like that world of variations, but it certainly catapulted them, right? With the minis versus the regulars,
Yeah.
and that was like and I know there's some reasons behind that, but it really kind of paved the way to now where there's so many different versions and variations and all that. But I mean, as a collector, I imagine were you trying to grab the minis and the regulars back then, or?
Back then, actually, here on Long Island, we didn't see very many minis. They didn't make it their way out here.
That was
Once
more
in a
of
while,
a Midwest thing, right?
it was more of they were released in California,
Oh, okay, okay,
I think, I think in Michigan
okay,
area, and in like Massachusetts, like the New England area. So I
okay.
think some
Interesting.
of them, because I did find some when I was collecting that year, but very few. Like, I probably had come across 4. that
Yeah.
whole, like I can remember how many I saw on one hand because you just didn't see them here.
You know, it's funny. If I was back then kind of grabbing 75s and somebody gives me that, I would like immediately assume it was like a fake or a
Yeah.
knockoff.
Or somebody shrunk it. It looked like, somebody shrunk the card. I was like,
Yeah.
what's up with this? It's a small little card, and it didn't fit in anything right because it was
Yeah.
smaller. They didn't have pages for them back then either. So it was,
Right. I think it was one of those older episodes of Pack Geek that referenced the one of the reasons behind the 75 minis being shortage of cardboard stock. Is that I remember something to that point where they were kind of testing the waters with that because of that.
oh,
Was there something to that or no?
that sounds obviously plausible. I never
Yeah.
heard that, but I know it was definitely a test issue, no doubt about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
That's
and it
I'm sorry,
didn't.
guys.
It doesn't look like it seemed like it really caught on because they didn't come back to the minis for quite a few years after.
Yeah.
It was like the late mid '80s when they came back with the minis.
Yeah, that's about right. I mean, but you know what's interesting about that? I think the minis, you know, the 75s have like a cult following, at least from the group threads, right? There's some folks that are just really, really into the mini packs and even ripping them and making their collection sets only on minis. I don't know if that's still now, but I remember a couple of years ago seeing that a
Yeah,
lot.
no, it definitely is. The 75 minis have a very strong cult following.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it definitely is. They're very, very passionate about it. So
Yeah. And it's kind of cool too because it's one of the most colorful historic tops that like just
yeah,
really, really cool looking cards, man. Honestly, it's I mean, I like, me, I'm a big time 78 guy, and that's more like of a traditional look, right? But the 75s, I honestly would probably rank that second in terms of my PC.
yeah,
And in large part is just how cool the actual wrappers look, but also just the crazy colors. Like if you put a set together, right, in a
yeah,
binder, it really pops when you're going page by page,
yeah.
right?
It definitely does. And it's very popular too because you had a lot of rookies came out that year too. You had Brett and Yount, but you also had Gary Carter. You also had Keith
Keith Hernandez, yep.
Jim Rice was in that set. Fred
Yeah.
Lynn, and at that time, Fred Lynn, they thought he was going to really be one of the greats until he left Boston.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's you bring up a good point about unopened and popularity because like for me, for instance, 78 is one of my favorites. And part of it's because it's my birth year, or one of the reasons, one of the main reasons why. But I think another reason I kind of gravitated to it was the awesome rookies that you can find in that
Yeah,
set, right? So I think with 75s, it's just like that perfect storm, variations, awesome colors, and like between Hall of Famers and you have the Hank Aaron's
yeah,
last year roughly is 76, I guess technically is his last year, but you have all these like monster Hall of Fame players plus all these great rookies. It's just a great set.
yeah. No, it is. It is. And like you said, besides the rookies being in that set, there are a ton of Hall of Famers in that set.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. In terms of unopened product, let's kind of fast forward to current day right now and unopened. What are you finding right now to be like that unopened product that's really, really hard to find? That's just like that you're really, maybe you want to add it to your collection or add more to it to the collection, but you're just really struggling.
Anything pre 75 is almost totally dried up at this point.
Wow.
Anything between my sweet spot for collecting is the 70s. So 1970 to 79, I really zero in on those years. From 70 to 74, very, very tough to find any unopened product these days. Most collectors that have it now are not selling based off the prices that these things are going for now. Because if I sell it, I may not be able to ever find that again, even if I want to buy it later on. And if I did find it, I may have to pay twice what I sold it for. So
Right. And,
people are
and
holding on to that.
yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's what makes to me, unopened, really, unique in a sense compared to other hobbies, right? In the sense that you have, most, let's call it like cards, traditional cards, they go up in population as you open up packs and submit to
Yeah.
PSA and all that. But in our world, it's the supply actually starts depleting, and now more so with, and that'll be a whole topic for another episode. And I hope you would join me in talking on that. But ripping, right, and
Yeah.
the pack breaks and all that stuff. That's like, I mean, I'm like holding on to what little I have, because I just feel like there may not be much left, right?
And I believe, I mean, pack breaking and all, it's been around, but the last couple of years, it's really has taken off. The last 2 years, I would say, and
Yeah,
we started to see an effect 2 years ago. This past year, right prior to COVID, it was definitely having an impact in the price of unopened. Then once COVID hit and more people had disposable income, more people were at home and they had no other outlet for entertainment or spending their entertainment
yeah,
money, those two converged, and now it's just, you've seen the result in the prices because the supply is just not there. These
yeah.
rips are just ripping things open, and people, it's almost like a form of gambling where
Yeah, that's what I
every,
was about to say, Mike. It was like a like sports gambling, right? But hobby style, right?
yes, because
Yeah,
with COVID there was no sports, so nothing I can bet on. Well, I could bet on this if this pack has a Tom Seaver rookie in it, or
yeah.
this pack has, a Roberto Clemente rookie in it, or
Right, right. That's exactly right. It's interesting. And I mean, at least from what I've been seeing, it doesn't seem like it's losing steam. The
no,
popularity is just still there.
yes,
Um, but yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess it kind of segues into my next question for you. We're kind of already touching into it, like on what your current take of the unopened hobby is. We touched on the breaks, right? But like in terms of trends and things that have shocked you, and I obviously the big asterisk here is the COVID era and how it's just shocked us all in hobby in general. But like, what's your take, right, on the current unopened hobby?
well, the biggest shock or surprise to me is the run up of the late 80s product that, for years and years was underwater. You couldn't even sell it for what you bought it for. So,
Yeah,
and you could get tons of it and people had tons of it. And now to see it actually starting to sell and starting to move and being able to make money back on all that late 80s
like you
stuff.
so well said before, you broke even on your boxes
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Although even though I could break even, I'll still keep them in the collection. Not
Right.
selling them. I do attach.
Yeah, you reminded me of and obviously I would never have known in a million years that this would have turned out the way it was for me, right? But one of the sets that bring me back to my childhood, Mike, is the '87 Donruss set, and that was one of those first that I really gravitated to. Add in the fact that it's loaded with rookies in that era, between Bo, McGuire, Larkin, you name it. And I just before COVID, or maybe a couple months before COVID, I was buying them to rip with my son who's really into it. And they were like $15 a box, and it was just fun. And then if I landed a Hall of Fame rookie, we top load it, keep it in our little PC. It was just a cool, fun thing. My son started knowing more about the older players. Anyway, now I don't want to open what boxes I have left because they're worth like
Now
75
they're worth
bucks.
something. Now you don't want to get rid of them. Oh,
Every now and then he asks me, he goes, "You want to open up a box?" I'm like, "Nah, I think we're good. Let me get some '88 Donruss."
exactly. And just paralleling your story, I probably 3 nationals ago, I brought my son to the national. He's 16 now, so he would have been about 13 at the time. Uh, and we were at Baseball Card Exchange's booth there, obviously the kings of unopened.
Right.
And he had some money on him. He had $20 and he wanted to buy something. So I suggested 89 Fleer. I said, let's see if we can get a Billy Ripken rookie. And he was like, well, why would I want that? And then I told him about the whole
Yeah,
his
yeah.
era card,
The famous error card, right?
and he was all excited. So I think they were running a blowout, $15
Wow.
for that box.
Yeah.
we took it home. We brought it all the way home with us because I think that show was in Chicago that year that we
Okay.
bought the box. So we came back home to Long Island. He ripped the box open. Sure enough, we hit two of the FF errors.
Yeah, yeah.
He was
That's so
so
cool.
he was so excited because he really didn't even believe me. He thought I was just pulling his leg until he actually saw the card come out of the box. But now I actually probably right before COVID hit, I saw a 1989 Fleer case, wax box case,
Mm.
show up on eBay, and I bought it thinking, oh, that would be really cool to rip with my son. You know, he really liked
Right.
a box or two out at the time.
Yeah.
Now, like, well, you know, maybe I'll give him a couple of those boxes, and maybe the rest I'll kind of hold on to for a while.
Oh, Mike, come on, be real. You know what you did with that? You sealed that puppy shut. You put it in the closet. You're like, you're not touching this box.
I
What are they?
promise. So.
I mean, yeah, that's a good example. I mean, 89's going for what, like over $100 now a box, or
It
I think,
depends on
right?
the area because obviously from the cases, if you get a sealed case and you look on the code, you're able to get an early run of it. Those
That's
boxes,
right.
$150 to $200 I've seen,
Wow.
depending
Wow.
how early the case run is. And the case that I bought is actually I've only seen one case older than the case I have.
Wow. That's a keeper,
So
man.
So
That's a
it's
keeper.
got, people that are familiar with the '89 Fleer. There's the Randy Johnson era, which is the biggest era card in there, where there
Yeah.
was a Marlboro ad in the background, and Top slowly started to change it. So there's different era cards that go along with it. So
That's
depending
right.
on what the background looks like, the card value will go up based off of how rare it is. So if you can get one that has the Marlboro ad in the background, totally visible that you can see it,
Right.
you're talking big bucks.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Those don't come around very often because I've looked for that card and it's there. You can get them at a premium, but it's few and far between.
Yes.
I think I have the green tint and the red tint
Yeah.
variation. But yeah, you're right. I guess they were playing with the ink for a few runs, and there's
Yes.
like 5 versions of it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really funny, man. Because you made me think about '89 Fleer, and yeah, it was maybe a year and a half ago. I had a chance to buy like $10 a box on one of the Facebook groups, and
Oh, yeah.
and I didn't buy them. And you look back and like, wow, that was,
Yeah.
if only I knew, right?
Exactly.
But
And then find that I'm sure anybody that's been collecting unopened for a while will say, "Oh, I should have bought such and such when I saw it at the time,"
yeah,
because the prices have just steadily and steadily gone up. Obviously the last few months prices have really went into supernova status, but
yeah,
prior to that, there was still a steady run up because, like you said, it's supply demand.
yeah,
The supply is just going down. You have companies that grade cards, and they were buying a lot of unopened product too, ripping it to grade to the grading companies, to PSA or to Beckett, and the like, and SGC. So
yeah.
there was a lot of that going on, which totally decreased the supply out there.
And I truly think the junk wax era might have done a little bit of a market correction with COVID, and because of all the ripping, it might not be that junky anymore.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
we always said eventually at some point it's gotta become somewhat rare.
yeah, yeah. It's getting there, Mike. Hey,
Yeah.
hold on to those 88 Donruss.
Another 30 years, another 30 years,
There you go.
we'll catch it.
So Mike, before we end, I want to, I know these are earlier episodes, but I want to kind of start a tradition where I kind of finish every interview with some fun questions that make you kind of think a little outside the box here. So I got two for you, buddy. I want to throw your way. First one I want to ask you is, if you had to give, and this one's going to hurt because look at that beautiful background. If you had to give up that whole collection behind you, Mike, all of it,
Yes.
except for one item, what would it be and why?
It would be my 1974 rack with Tom Seaver's card front, because that is
Wow.
absolutely my favorite card of Tom Seaver. I love that card. And when I had the opportunity to buy the rack, a friend of mine actually was able to buy the rack, but he agreed to let me buy it because he knew how much I love that card. So
Right.
he let me buy it instead of him buying it. So I really appreciated the gesture on his part. That's what makes the hobby so great too. You make all these connections, and everybody's
Yeah.
really trying to help each other out. So that rack is by far my favorite rack. That would be the absolute last thing that I sell.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I mean, that sounds amazing. You have to show me that one day, buddy. I would love to see that.
Maybe on a future episode, I'll put that to the side now,
Yeah.
and I'll show that in a future episode.
You know what? You have a deal. Thanks, man. I definitely would love to see that one. Great. So, all right, last question for you is outside of baseball and unopened, right?
Yes.
What hobby are you most interested in and why? It doesn't have to be something that you're playing, like you're actually, into, but what's kind of like something that you would say like, wow, I really like this and why?
Okay. Well, hobby wise, it's this. This is really, as far as the hobby collecting wise,
Hmm.
this this is it, and it's really strictly just baseball unopened that I collect.
Okay.
But hobby wise, sports wise, I'm a big hockey fan.
Okay.
I play deck hockey. For people that aren't familiar with deck hockey, it's hockey on foot, street hockey. People call it ball hockey.
Yeah.
So that's what I do, and that's how I stay as skinny as I am, is by doing that. From high school. I ran cross country. I was always pretty quick, and after my college career ended, I just picked up hockey, and that's really been my other go-to outlet is playing hockey, and it definitely keeps me in shape too. So
Awesome.
so
Mike, I didn't want to scare you, but I actually have your rookie card.
yeah,
I need
yeah,
an autograph.
I heard it's been floating around.
Tim made one. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I actually have a rookie card.
You do. All right. That you have to show for the next episode as well.
Yeah,
All right.
so too. That was as a joke. We all got cards, and I'm sure everybody does this now. But back when I did it, it was a long time ago. But where your kid could get their own, card made,
Yeah. Yeah.
league and stuff. So when we were playing in some league when I was in my 20s or whatever, we all, as a joke, got trading cards made of all of
That's
us.
cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. All right.
So
I definitely need to
I
see
will
that.
show the next show.
Awesome. Well, Mike, I can't thank you enough for this. This is going to be, to me, this was awesome. And, like if there's one hobby that I can talk about for hours, it's unopened.
Yeah.
So how cool to kind of start things off with the channel talking about unopened and with you. So I thank you so much for doing this. And I hope to do this again with you real soon.
Oh, definitely. It was a pleasure to be on. And anytime you want me to come on, just pick up the phone and I'll be there.
Awesome, man. Thanks again, Mike.
Yes, thank you. Take care, everybody.
Take care, guys. Thanks for watching today's episode, guys. Before you go, real quick, if you could click that like button and that subscribe button for me, I will greatly appreciate it, guys. It's just going to help grow the hobby networking group, and I promise I'm going to keep on bringing that awesome content your way. I'll be watching those comments. Let me know what you guys want, and I will do my best to deliver, guys. Thank you so much. Very humble for your time. Very appreciative. Go on hobbynetworkgroup.com. You'll see we're on Twitter. We are on Instagram, very soon on Facebook, as well as podcasts to come super soon. And I'll share those links on the website. Thanks again, guys, and have a great day. Take care.